Hey, greetings everybody, it's GleeCon back again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we walked around Stormwind City, and that took as long as questing in the zone. We just explored it with a human paladin. There wasn't much of a paladin quest involved. We did visit some paladin trainers and saw some interesting things. But really, it was notable just for how much it's evolved now compared to where it was. It was not a ton of lore. There were a ton of lore books throughout there, but we're going to read those in another episode. We've also been reading Lands of Mystery, the Dungeons and Dragons campaign setting, and as we get near the end, we're on the 8th chapter, which talks about different organizations. Last time we talked about the Burning Blade, and they really portrayed it in this as an orc organization, although I think we have lore and things that we've read that can make it prove that it's otherwise. So stay a while and listen as we continue with the next organization. This is the Druids of the Fang. So membership is about 3,000, so not huge, but not small. They are neutral good or chaotic evil. So there are evil Druids of the Fang, and they're an independent organization. Since the tragedy, the Druids have scattered around Kalimdor to look for a key to saving their leader, but they gather mostly in Thunder Bluff and the Barrens. Interesting. Activities, they want to heal the Barrens, unequivocally taint the Barrens. Work to save their leader from the nightmare realm where he exists. So one or the other. I guess the evil ones want to taint it, the good ones want to heal it, and they all want to save their leader from the nightmare. The Druids of the Fang were previously a Night Elf faction devoted to healing the Barrens and returning it to its former lush glory. After their leader became trapped in an attempt to connect to the Emerald Dream, those close to him became corrupted, and now keep others from attempting to save him. These Druids work to spread the chaos and corruption in the caverns and throughout the Barrens. So this is the ones you fight in the Wailing Caverns. Turning independent to entreat the Tauren Druids for help, the remaining Druids now struggle to free their leader, defeat their evil brethren, and complete the goal of restoring the Barrens from the further taint. Their biggest rivals are their own kind, the Druids that carry corrupted souls and prevent the rescue of Naralax, the fallen Druid of the Fang leader. An organization beset by tragedy, these Druids accept any and all help to achieve their goals. It is one of the few organizations supported by both the Alliance and the Horde. So this is really the organization that's all wrapped around the Wailing Caverns dungeon and the immediate area outside it. So this is a very niche organization. The leader of this shattered shell of a group was Naralax. The Night Elf Druids I spoke to paint him into a savior figure, one to deliver the Barrens from its desert existence and deliver us all from the demons. The Tauren Druids have a slightly more realistic view of this man. He thought the cavern complex underneath the Barrens would be the ideal place to try to siphon in some of the magic of the Emerald Dream. Bring in the dream magic, he thought, and the Barrens will flower again. Now, I don't know much about magic, but I wasn't much surprised to hear the second part of the story. This Druid took a wrong turn and ended up not in the Emerald Dream, but stuck in some nightmare place. Now he's in a coma, and is the conduit through which the nightmare stuff is coming to warp and twist everything in the Wailing Caverns. His seconds, 4 extremely powerful Druids, were corrupted and still remain down there, guarding his body from anyone who tries to help. This is one of the longest dungeons in the game. It's crazy. So no one reports to Naralax, although he's the leader. The remaining Druids of the Fang are so distraught that there is little organization among them. If a Druid discovers a band of strong adventurers who seem decent enough, he entreats them for help. The Tauren took pity on the disorganized Druids and invited them into their fold. Now, Tauren Druids, while they do not directly order the Night Elves, guide them in Druidic spells to try to cleanse the caverns and give them places to train to increase their skills. The Night Elf Druids are focused on restoring their master to his former state and have since put off the small matter of fixing the Barrens. Yet it is likely that the Barrens can't be fixed until Naralax is released from his sleep, so it probably all points to the same goal. Locations. The Druids of the Fang have no central gathering place unless you count the horrors of the Wailing Caverns. I found both kinds of Druids there, the mad, powerful, corrupted Druids and the confused and disorganized good ones. The latter are not as deep in the caverns. The best place to get information about the Druids of the Fang is Thunder Bluff, which surprises the beard off me. Tauren Druids are keenly aware of the horrors of the Wailing Caverns, and the Druids of both races often travel between the Wailing Caverns, Crossroads, and Thunder Bluff, working to get more information and make plans. These Druids often travel to Moonglade as well, but they don't spend too much time there. Members. The Druids of the Fang were once a proud and powerful group. Druids who wish to connect to the potent power of the bear would study nature and live long lives of arrogant superiority, although most night elves already did that. The existing druids of the Fang would go through years of initiation and live in nature away from towns, communing with nature and those massive ancient trees. Now their numbers have dwindled. Many druids lost their lives in the Third War, and after Naralax fell into his half-living, half-dead state, most figured the druids of the Fang were a lost organization, dishonored by their destruction of the nature of the caves. Yet some night elves and some Tauren believe the caverns can be cleansed. These optimistic youths either attempt to find druids in Thunder Bluff or Crossroads, or even the caverns, although some of those youths don't survive that journey, who can help them. Apart from a cursory check to see if the student has promise, a good heart, and a willingness to do hard work and possibly lose her soul in the corrupting magic of the caverns, the druids of the Fang accept any new acolyte. Their numbers are low, and they are desperate to increase them. I admit that even though the druids don't seem to care too much who they take in, their new acolytes are eager and strong. I haven't met a new initiate who isn't determined to heal the caverns and the barrens. Night elves and Tauren in the organization don't quarrel. I've seen night elves in Thunder Bluff, always escorted by Tauren, of course, and Tauren in Moonglade, where druids sometimes go to meditate. The new ones are focused, and I think they give some life to the old druids in their miserable states. Here are some of the leaders. Naralax is the leader. He's a male night elf that is level 18. While an impotent leader, the druids I spoke with still insist that Naralax is in fact their leader. A powerful druid who had connected to the Emerald Dream countless times, this night elf was devoured by the magical energies of the Wailing Caverns when he tried to become a conduit for the magic of the Emerald Dream. Now he's a conduit for the energies of a nightmare plane, guarded by night elves driven mad by the dark energies he emits. He does not lead the druids anymore, but to name a new leader would be to admit defeat, to admit that their once noble organization is now evil and corrupt, responsible for the Wailing Caverns and the murderer of the Baron's last hope for restoration. Ebru is a level 13 male night elf. Ebru is likely the strongest of the druids trained after Naralax's fall. He is, oddly enough, the one druid who keeps the rest of them together. He lacks the grim view of the situation that the older druids have, as well as the eager simplicity of the younger ones. He hunts in the Wailing Caverns, piling up the bodies of monsters, collecting gruesome trophies. He welcomes anyone who wishes to hunt beside him and feels that if they can cleanse the caverns of monsters, he's one step toward healing the Barrens. He's young, but when he gives orders, the druids listen. He sometimes clashes with Nalpak, who also stays near the caves, but the druids are drawn to Ebru's fierce optimism. Ebru focuses mainly on killing the raptors in the caves, believing that their creation was the first thing to taint the caves after Naralex's descent into Nightmare. I do think there's like a reptile element to this type of druid once they're corrupted. Nalpak is the druid we just mentioned, who is a level 16 male night elf. Nalpak is one of the druids who remains in the higher tunnels of the Wailing Caverns, attempting to keep the dark monsters residing in the caverns contained and away from the Barrens. He is one of the older druids, one who escaped the fate of his companions. He mourns his friends and refuses to leave the caverns, feeling that he has some part of the responsibility of keeping the monsters within from streaming into the Barrens. If a druid wishing to receive training can make it to him, he accepts her immediately, believing that the student has undergone enough tests and simply getting to him. He is a tired yet determined druid waiting for the right time to help his leader. Nara Wildmane is a female Tauren level 14 druid. Nara is a young druid raised and trained in Thunder Bluff, but one of the first Tauren to reach out to the Night Elves after Naralax fell into his coma. She resides in Crossroads in close proximity to the Wailing Caverns, keeping track of the comings and goings of druids in the area. She's traveled to the Wailing Caverns several times and has the battle scars to prove it. She works closely with Nalpak, sending eager young druids his way to give him what aid she can. She believes Naralax was right in his theory that the Wailing Caverns are the key to healing the Barrens and is determined to aid Naralax however she can. And finally, Humul Rune Totem. He is a male Tauren level 19, an elderly Tauren who knows Naralax from years back. Humul lives in Thunder Bluff and trains druids. Quite old, he rarely leaves the city, but I've seen his skills, and he's not to be trifled with. I sometimes wonder if he's past his prime or even afraid of Naralax's fate. He likely has enough power to help heal the caverns, but he claims he's too old to travel that far. He's hesitant to travel by magic to the area, fearing the magic of the caverns will trap him the way Naralax was trapped. He sends new druids to Nara Wildmane and the Barrens when he feels they're ready for further training. Some of these dungeons it's going to be a double-edged sword. I'm eager to do them, but I'm also worried because I'm going to be doing pugs basically. And pugs gone wrong. I mean, maybe I'll join some guilds and see what can happen, but pug gone wrong, whoo, it's going to be bad. It could take hours and be for naught. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. This has got another episode in the pipe, 5x5, and I look forward to seeing everybody next time on Lore of Warcraft.